Welcome back to the Neuroanimation Grow Your Brain podcast. I'm your host, Maddi. Today's guest, Sheila McHenry, was diagnosed with Parkinson's 8 years ago. 8 years of tremors, 8 years of adapting, 8 years of slowly accepting her limitations as reality. But something inside Sheila refused to settle. After nearly a decade working within her situation, Sheila refused to accept her reality and move forward. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined on the podcast with Sheila and her husband, Bill, who has stood beside her every step of the way, to discuss what sparked this change in her, what happened at Neuroanimation, and why it is never too late to reclaim your life. Sheila and Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Maddi.
Thank you. I would like to start with you, Sheila. So, what was it like for you when you first received that Parkinson's diagnosis?
Well, it was a shock and fear because I kind of knew what Parkinson's meant, but didn't know completely. So, but I thought I've got to learn, and I'm going to figure out how I move forward.
When you first received your Parkinson's diagnosis, what did the doctors tell you about what you could expect?
They said the progression will be different with every person, but you'll have voice problems probably and movement problems. And I did a lot of reading, and I thought, well, if I can retard this progression, I'd like to. So that's how I found out about neuroanimation.
How did you find out about neuroanimation? Talk to me about that.
Well, actually, one of my daughters, her sister-in-law had a stroke, and very young, and she came to neuroanimation. And she said, I think this could be something your mother would benefit from looking at. So I did. And I thought, it's worth a try. And I firmly believe that the next step in medicine is going to be through the brain anyway. So it made sense to me, and I thought, I'm going to give this a whirl.
When you first received that Parkinson's diagnosis, Sheila, what was that emotional journey like for you as your symptoms started to develop, and how did that manifest itself?
Well, it's frightening. You don't have control over where it's going, and so accepting it's hard. But if you don't accept it and move forward, you're going to be worse.
I was going to say, but you seem like you have an incredible attitude, and you're a very positive person.
I am anyway, but it's important to be positive with something like this, or else you're going to fall into the pattern of just progressing more rapidly.
So much like people who suffer a stroke like myself or live with Parkinson's like you, Sheila, you get told at some point that this is as good as it's going to get. There's going to be no more progress beyond X point. Did you hear that from your doctors, and what were your expectations?
Yes, I did, and I found it very discouraging that they would feel that way because medicine is constantly moving. So why wouldn't it not be moving in a positive direction? So, but I did get that feeling that you have to accept certain things. Like they would say to me, that the disease is progressive, and I'd say, yes, I do, but the rate of progression can be different.
And as your disease continued to progress from the date that you were diagnosed 8 years ago, what types of changes did you start to notice?
Well, my movement was a little more difficult. My speech was definitely more difficult. But I just decided to take hold of that and look for ways to maybe help it or stave it off. I guess I can use that term a little. And I have found some ways to do it. Neuroanimation is one.
And Bill, what about you as Sheila's husband? How did you handle this Parkinson's diagnosis, and how did you notice it in her?
Well, I watched Sheila and noticed there was a tremor, and then years ago, our daughter Megan came and said, listen, we ought to go see a doctor. So we went over to New York and met with the doctor, and he said, listen, this is probably the beginning of Parkinson's, and I didn't know that much about Parkinson's. I knew it was a serious disease. Mm-hmm. So then through the years, I've watched Sheila. But Sheila's very positive in how she approaches things, always has been. And it's just going to be another struggle for her. And that's how she approaches it. So every day gets up, a very positive attitude, and goes about her day. And some days are good, some days are bad, but she's never given up, and she won't give up. And then we heard about the neuroanimation, and said that's something we ought to look into. I said, fine, let's go out there and do it. Luckily, we were able to do it. And so far, we've gone through 2 weeks, and we have another week to go.
What ultimately made you decide to give neuroanimation a try after you heard about it?
Well, the fact that my daughter's sister-in-law, how she reacted and how positive it was, and how effective it was. And then reading more about it, I thought, wow, there was something about it that made sense. There's a part of the brain that they're studying, and it directly affects Parkinson's. And I thought, you hear all the time now, the next phase of medicine is going to be through the brain. And I thought, well, then I'm going that route. So, and I have to say, Bill has been my strength along the way.
Yeah, and it's so amazing to see like how supportive you are, Bill. And I know from my own journey that it's really tough to navigate something like this alone. So having the supportive family, and it sounds like you have a supportive daughter as well, is just incredible to hear.
We do. It means everything to have the support of some of your family, and especially from Bill. He's never given up. He walks right along with me. So that's been...
So when you first came to neuroanimation 2 weeks ago, Sheila, what were your main goals coming into your program?
I was experiencing more anxiety in my life, and that was a main goal. I wanted to see if they could help me with that anxiety. Second was the voice and mobility. I have some things that are still in good shape, so we wanted to focus on those two things, and I think there's something about it that has clicked, especially the anxiety. I'm less anxious, I feel, today than I was 2 weeks ago.
Wow. That's amazing to hear, Sheila.
It's amazing to feel. I'm not saying I'm leaps and bounds, but I'm definitely feeling more secure, less anxious, more able. I was getting nervous about going out on my own, and now I'm not as much.
Bill, is there anything you've noticed in these past 2 weeks about your wife that has been different?
Well, I think she approaches this as she approaches everything else, that she's going to give it her all, and she has. And yes, I've noticed some improvement with Sheila. Her attitude is always very positive, but she does 3 hours a day. I only go an hour, and believe me, the 3 hours, they keep her busy. And every day up we go, and positive, let's go. Out we go, out the door, up 3 hours, and then we talk about it in the evening. And I'm only taking, as I said, an hour of it. I can only imagine what the 3 hours is like. But I think there will be, based on what I do and what Sheila does, hopefully we're going to see some improvement coming out of this. Her attitude has been positive, and it's still positive now.
I'm very interested to hear a little bit more about this. You said your anxiety feels like it's a lot better since you started. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, Sheila?
Yes, I was getting to the point where I was afraid to be alone, and so I was concerned about that because that limits you so.
Definitely.
And so I feel that somewhere in this 2-week period, all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I went down there alone today and it didn't bother me.
Wow.
And I guess that's when I stopped and thought, I gotta look at this. Because that's different. I was almost at the point where I wouldn't go anyplace alone. And that was unusual for me. So your independence all of a sudden is cut.
So Sheila, I feel like anxiety is a lesser talked about symptom or side effect, if you will, of conditions such as Parkinson's or stroke, and it's something I myself have struggled with, so I can understand where you're coming from, and I know how hard it can be to be able to regain the confidence and independence to be able to do things by yourself. However, it sounds to me like you've made leaps and bounds, massive strides in getting your confidence back and being able to walk around places on your own.
Yes, that's the biggest thing in this 2-week period is that I find myself in the hotel, but I'm downstairs in a room, and I don't need anybody with me.
Because anxiety can be crippling in situations like this.
You don't want to go out anymore. You don't want to talk to people. I didn't want to talk to somebody for fear my voice would get weak. But I find, try. People have been genuinely kind, and they'll be patient. Mm-hmm. And so and that's a huge feeling, to be able to not retreat and go back to a room, but to go rather confidently into a crowd and say, yes, I have Parkinson's, so my speech may get a little softer, but I can do this. So that's the anxiety part.
So Sheila, you've talked a bit about experiencing tremors, changes in your voice, and I think you've even experienced some freezing episodes as well. But was there any grief attached to this happening as you started to experience this more and more frequently?
There's grief, and there's a why me. But you have to get beyond that. You have to step out of it and say, it is me, and I'm going to deal with it. But yes, I felt that the emotion of I wanted to just sort of retreat and not face people. And then all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, this is not going to work. I'm not going to do this.
So Sheila, you've been going through the intensive 3-week boot camp for neuro recovery. And Bill, it sounds like you have also been dabbling in the program as well.
Yes, I do an hour session every day with reflex testing, and animation is basically it's a gaming experience where you're in a room and with an 8x10 screen, and they put up various games actually that you have to coordinate with left and right hand, obviously your eye, your brain, and you're trying to accomplish a goal. You might there's 8 or 10 things that you can maybe do during the game.
What's your favorite game?
I guess I do the best at the octopus hitting the ball, and I do the least with the shark game, where the sharks are trying to kill each other.
What's your favorite game, Sheila?
Probably the fish.
Which
I
fish
love
one?
The gathering.
The fish flock.
I love it.
Oh, that one's so fun. Relaxing.
Yes. And then second, the octopus.
Which octopus game is your
The
favorite?
one where you hit the ball.
Yes, I like that one a lot too.
Yeah.
I like Octoball Solo. Actually, I like Octoball Run too. So Sheila, you've been living with Parkinson's for 8 years, and you're now just about to finish your first round of boot camp at neuroanimation. What makes neuroanimation different than other things you've tried in the past?
Well, I've never played a game before, and so that's very different for me. It's the approach, and it's the positivity they have. They so believe in what they're doing, and sometimes I'm not very very technical, but it makes sense what they're saying. Attack not the symptoms, but to go for where it's lacking, and that's in the brain. So I think that's the difference.
And I imagine that has helped as well with your confidence in being able to tackle tasks and activities.
Definitely. I mean, it changes, it takes you back to how you lived once. I don't have to be someone with Parkinson's.
Do you feel that since you've been doing neuroanimation, that you've gotten a piece of your, the old Sheila back,
Yes.
so to speak?
It's not ruling my life now. I'm telling it what to do.
Oh my gosh, and it's listening to you.
It's listening. Better listen some more.
Exactly. Listen, I'm right there with you. Better listen more.
Yeah. You have to take control of it. That's the biggest thing. And I feel like neuroanimation is helping me to moving more in that direction. It's not accepting what medicine has said in the past is the result, but giving you some new opportunities, some new ways to think about it. And I think they're very positive.
So thank you, Sheila and Bill, for coming on to the podcast today. And it is so inspiring, Sheila, to hear of your journey with Parkinson's and how neuroanimation has helped you regain the confidence and independence to get out there in the world and do things that are important to you. How has neuroanimation helped you feel a renewed sense of hope?
The fact that they're is an opportunity to actually either slow this process down or actually get better in some ways. So, yeah, neuroanimation has given me hope. And I appreciate what you're doing because getting the word out there is an important part of this whole process. And feel like you're being alone, which sometimes you do, because so many people and so many in the medical field say to you, well, it's a progressive disease and you have to accept. Well, you don't have to accept if you don't want to. So go forward and fight this battle. It's winnable.
I love that.
It's winnable.
Yes, it is. And you are certainly winning, Sheila. That you are.
I'm trying hard.
Well, I've been pleased with the neuroanimation and the progress that Sheila's made. Sheila's a very positive person, but she's even more positive after this experience. We have another week to go, and I think at the end of the 3-week program, we'll find it very beneficial for Sheila and myself.
So what's next on your agenda for the two of you? What great adventure are you embarking on next?
What do you think, hon?
Back to Florida and pick up our lives again. We have 4 wonderful children and 14 grandchildren.
Oh, my gosh.
Several graduations coming up, so we'll be right back in the thick of things as soon as we get to Florida and back up to New Jersey.
That's sort of our goal. We'll travel this summer a bit, coming places where our children and grandchildren live. So that'll be that's our travel excursions.
Thanks again, Sheila, for being on this podcast. Before we leave, what is one piece of advice you would say to someone who is maybe living with a diagnosis and feels stuck in their progress, like they can't achieve any more gains?
Take hold of your life. We know it is a progressive disease. Don't be a Pollyanna and think, it is what it is. But don't sit down and just give in either. You're the person you are. You can make changes. And with the help of this new type of medicine, I think there's real opportunity, so give it a try.
Sheila's story shows us that time does not define possibility, and that progress and healing are possible and don't have to be on anyone else's timeline. Sheila, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey with Parkinson's on the podcast.
Thank you, Maddi, for having me.
Thank you, Maddi, for having us.
Thanks, everyone, and until next time, keep growing your brain.